Hello, this is Shamiel Rodriguez from Business Studies Second Friday class, and I'm going to be talking about what I learned from the Unit 25 to Unit 28. Let's start talking about the Unit 25, Efficiency and Employment. What is rationalization? Rationalization is the reorganization of a company in order to increase its operating efficiency. This sort of reorganization may lead to an expansion or reduction in company size, a change of policy, or alteration of a strategy pertaining to a particular product offered. Similar to a reorganization, a rationalization is more widespread, encompassing a strategy as well as structural changes. Rationalization is necessary to a company to increase a revenue, decrease costs, and improve its bottom line. Rationalization may also refer to the process of becoming calculable. For example, the introduction of certain financial models or financial technologies rationalizes markets and makes them more efficient. Now let's talk about what is downsizing. Downsizing is the permanent reduction of a company's labor force through the elimination of unproductive workers or divisions. Downsizing is a common organizational practice usually associated with the economic downturns and failing businesses. Cutting jobs is the fastest way to cut costs, and downsizing an entire store, branch, or division also frees assets for sale during corporate reorganizations. Downsizing is not always involuntary. It is also used at other stages of the business cycle to create leaner, more efficient businesses. Eliminating any part of organizational structure that is not directly adding any value to the final product is a production and management philosophy known as lean enterprise. However, there is evidence that downsizing can have adverse long-term consequences that some companies never recover from. Downsizing may actually increase the likelihood of bankruptcy by reducing productivity, customer satisfaction, and morale. Firms that have downsized are more likely to declare bankruptcy in the future, irrespective of their financial health. Let's talk about the efficiency and the numbers of employees. The common definition of labor efficiency is the number of labor hours required to accomplish a given task. When compared with that standard in that industry or setting, the typical way of assessing labor efficiency is to compare the number of hours actually required to produce a given product or service with those usually required. Efficiency is about doing the same with less. Companies most often improve labor efficiency by finding ways to reduce the number of labor hours required to produce the same level of output. This translates into savings because the company spends less on wages and other labor-related costs. Efficiency then is about shrinking the denominator inputs in an effort to improve profitability. Now let's talk about Unit 26, exchange rates. What is an exchange rate? An exchange rate is the value by which two currencies are traded for one another. In other words, it is the rate or value at which one currency can purchase another currency. The exchange rate is important because it identifies the value between two or more nations, goods and services. It paves the way for international trade by sending a signal to the market, the valuation of each good. For example, without exchange rate, the U.S. would not know how much $1 is worth to someone in China, nor would the nation know how many goods or services it would be able to buy. There are a number of factors that can that cause the exchange rate to fluctuate. Examples include economic performance, size of the trade deficit currency, manipulation, monetary policy, and interest rates. Each plays an important part, some more than others, but can depend on a number of complex factors that may not be immediately obvious. To summarize, the main causes of exchange rate fluctuations are currency manipulation and monetary stimulus, economic performance, trade deficit, and interest rate. Now let's talk about the tax on currency transaction. The Tobin tax it's a tax levied on spot currency conversions with the intention of disincentivize short-term currency speculation, named after economist James Tobin. In contrast to a consumption tax paid by consumers, the Tobin tax is meant to apply to financial sector's participants as a means of controlling the stability of a given country's currency. It is more formally known today as financial transactions tax, or less formally, a Robin Hood tax. The currency transactions tax does not impact long-term investments. It is only imposed on the excessive flow of money that moves regularly between financial markets through the actions of speculators in search of a high short-term interest rates. The tax is paid by banks and financial institutions that profit from market volatility by taking excessive short-term speculative positions in the currency markets. Now let's talk about the Unit 27, international trade, the theory of free trade. Free trade is a largely theoretical policy under which governments impose absolutely no tariffs, taxes, or duties on imports or quotas on exports. In this sense, free trade is the opposite of protectionism, a defensive trade policy intended to eliminate the possibility of foreign competition. Advantages on this topic. It stimulates economic growth. Even when limited restrictions like tariffs are applied, all countries involved tend to realize greater economic growth. It increases foreign investment. When not faced with trade restrictions, foreign investors tend to pour money into local businesses, helping them expand and compete. Also, it reduces government spending. Governments often subsidize local industries like agriculture for their loss of income due to export quotas. Once the quotas are lifted, the government's tax revenues can be used for other purposes. The disadvantages. It causes job loss through outsourcing. Tariffs tend to prevent job outsourcing by keeping product pricing at competitive levels. Free of tariffs, products imported from foreign countries with lower wages cost less. Also, it encourages thefts of intellectual property. It encourages theft of intellectual property. Many foreign governments, especially those in developing countries, often fail to take intellectual property rights seriously. Without the protection of patent laws, companies often have their innovations and new technologies stolen, forcing them to compete with lower priced, domestically made fake products. It allows for poor working conditions. Similarly, governments in developing countries rarely have laws to regulate and ensure safe and fair working conditions. Lastly, let's talk about the Unit 28, Economies and Ecology. What is global warming? Global warming is the long-term heating of Earth's climate system observed since the pre-industrial period. due to human activities, primarily fossil fuel burning, which increases heat, trapping greenhouse gas levels in Earth's atmosphere. The term is frequently used interchangeably with the term climate change, though the latter refers to both human and naturally produced warming and the effects it has on our planet. It is most commonly measured as the average increase in Earth's global surface temperature. Some of the possible solutions to global warming are boosting energy efficiency. The energy used to power, heat, and cool our homes, businesses, and industries is the single largest contributor to global warming. Energy efficiency technologies allow us to use less energy to get the same or higher level of production, service, and comfort. This approach has vast potential to save both energy and money and can be deployed quickly. Managing forests and agriculture. Taken together, tropical deforestation and emissions from agriculture represent nearly 30% of the world's heat trapping emissions. We can fight global warming by reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation and by making our food production practices more sustainable. Lastly, we have renewables. Renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, geothermal, and bioenergy are available around the world. Multiple studies have shown that renewable energy has the technical potential to meet the vast majority of our energy needs. This was my presentation. I hope you have enjoyed. Thank you very much.